My name is Delia, and I am 27 years old. Standing outside this graduation hall, listening to the applause echoing from inside my heart, was racing with a mixture of nerves and determination. 5 years ago, my family erased me from their lives. They called me ugly. They called me a failure. They cut me off completely when I made a choice they could not accept. But today, I came back. Not to apologize, not to beg for forgiveness. They had no idea what was coming. Before I take you through what happened, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. If you enjoy stories about people who rise above family rejection, please hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you will want to see how this turns out. We lived in Portland, Oregon, in one of those neighborhoods where every house looked like it belonged in a magazine. My father, Warren, was a successful attorney who built his entire life around reputation and appearances. My mother, Patricia, taught art at a local high school, but when it came to family decisions, she always deferred to my father. Then there was my younger sister, Serena, 3 years younger than me, who everyone called the perfect child. Our house was large with a manicured lawn and tall windows that let in too much light. Everything had to look flawless on the outside. That was the rule. Growing up, I quickly learned that in our family image mattered more than anything else. Serena had golden blonde hair that fell in perfect waves, bright blue eyes, and a tall, slender frame that made people stop and stare. From the time she was little, strangers would comment on how beautiful she was. My mother would beam with pride. My father would nod approvingly. I was different. I had dark brown hair that never quite cooperated, and I started wearing glasses in 2nd grade. I was a bit heavier, not overweight, but definitely not thin, and my skin broke out badly during middle school. Nobody stopped to comment on my appearance except to offer unsolicited advice. Dinner table conversations in our house followed a predictable pattern. My parents would praise Serena for something she did at school, how she looked in her new dress, or how a teacher commented on her charm. When they turned to me, the questions were different. Did I finish my homework? Was I trying harder in gym class? Had I thought about losing a few pounds? I remember one particular evening when I was 14. I had just received an award for highest marks in my science class. I brought the certificate home excited to share the news. My mother glanced at it and said, "That is nice, honey." Then she turned back to Serena, who was showing off a new hairstyle. My father barely looked up from his phone. Later that night, my mother came into my room. She sat on the edge of my bed and said quietly, "Serena takes after my side. You must have gotten your father's genes." It was not said with malice, but it stung nonetheless, as if my appearance was some unfortunate genetic accident. My father was more direct. One afternoon, when I was 15, he pulled me aside after I came home from school. "Looks matter in this world, Delia," he said, not unkindly, but matter-of-factly. "You need to work twice as hard because you do not have what Serena has. That is just reality." I threw myself into academics. If I could not be the beautiful daughter, I would be the smart one. I studied, constantly earned top grades, and spent hours in the library. I loved science, particularly biology. There was something comforting about the precision of it, the way everything followed rules and logic. When I was 15, my best friend Emily was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder. I watched her health decline over 2 years. The doctors could not do much. The treatments were experimental and mostly ineffective. Emily passed away 2 weeks after her 17th birthday. I was devastated. But more than that, I was angry. Angry that there was not more research, not more funding, not more answers for diseases like hers. That experience crystallized something in me. I wanted to become a researcher. I wanted to find answers for the people who had none. I wanted to make a difference in a way that mattered. When I got accepted to the University of Washington to study biology, my family's reaction was lukewarm at best. "At least you got into somewhere decent," my father said. My mother smiled and nodded. Serena, still in high school, was already being courted by Ivy League schools. The expectation was clear. She would be the star. I would be the footnote. I packed my bags that fall with a sense of cautious hope. Maybe at university I could be seen for who I really was. Maybe intelligence would matter more than appearance. Maybe I could finally find my place. My first year at the University of Washington felt like stepping into a different world. I lived in a small dorm room with a roommate who was pleasant but busy with her own life. For the first time, I felt a sense of freedom. Nobody here knew me as the less pretty sister. Nobody compared me to Serena. I threw myself into my studies with the same intensity I had in high school. My biology courses were challenging but exhilarating. I loved the late nights in the library, the discussions with classmates about cellular processes and evolutionary theory. I felt alive in a way I had not before. During my second semester, I joined a research lab run by Professor Margaret Hartley, a stern but brilliant geneticist. She had a reputation for being demanding, but I did not mind. I wanted to learn from the best. I spent hours pipetting samples, running gel electrophoresis, and analyzing data. Professor Hartley noticed my dedication. "You have a good instinct for this work," she told me one afternoon. "Have you thought about graduate school?" I had not seriously, but hearing her say that planted a seed. The discovery that would change everything came during my second year spring semester. I had been working on a project analyzing gene mutations in patients with rare metabolic disorders. It was painstaking work, but I found it deeply meaningful. Every data point felt like a step closer to understanding, to helping people like Emily. One day, Professor Hartley called me into her office. She had an unusual expression on her face, somewhere between serious and excited. "Delia, I have been contacted by a private research lab in San Diego," she began. "They are working on gene therapy for rare diseases, cutting-edge stuff. They saw the preliminary work we have been doing here, and they are very impressed. Specifically, they are impressed with you." My heart started racing. "What do they want?" "They want you to join their team. Full-time. It is a 2-year commitment, fully funded. You would be doing real groundbreaking research, the kind that gets published in major journals." I felt a rush of excitement. This was exactly the kind of opportunity I had dreamed about. But then the catch came. "The thing is," Professor Hartley continued, "you would have to take a leave of absence from school. 2 years away from your degree program. But after that, you could come back and finish, or they might sponsor your graduate education. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Delia. You have real talent. I would not recommend it if I did not believe that." I left her office in a daze, 2 years away from school. My parents would never understand. But the research, the chance to actually make a difference. I could not stop thinking about it. I spent a week researching the lab, reading their published papers, understanding the scope of their work. It was legitimate, prestigious even. The lead researcher, Dr. Alan Foster, was well respected in the field. This was not some random offer. This was real. I decided to go home for Thanksgiving to talk to my family about it. I prepared carefully. I printed out information about the lab, the research they were doing, letters of recommendation from Professor Hartley. I wanted them to understand how significant this was. Thanksgiving dinner was the same as always. My mother cooked a traditional meal. Serena, now a junior in high school, dominated the conversation with stories about being elected homecoming princess. My parents hung on her every word, taking photos, laughing at her jokes. I waited until after dinner, when we were all sitting in the living room. My father was scrolling through his phone. My mother was looking at Serena's homecoming photos. Serena was texting. "I need to talk to you all about something important," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. My father looked up. "What is it?" I took a deep breath and explained everything. The research opportunity, the lab in San Diego, the significance of the work, the fact that I would need to take 2 years away from school. The room went silent. Then my father's face darkened. "Drop out," he said, his voice rising. "Are you insane?" "It is not dropping out," I said quickly. "It is a leave of absence. I can come back and finish." "What will people think?" My mother interjected, her face pale. "Our daughter, a college dropout." "I am not a dropout. This is a research position. It is an incredible opportunity." My father stood up, pacing. "Research? You want to throw away a degree for some lab work? Anyone can do lab work, Delia. A degree is what matters." "This is not just lab work. This is gene therapy research. It could help save lives." Serena spoke up for the first time, her voice dripping with disdain. "So you are going to quit school to play scientist? That is embarrassing." I turned to her, stung. "This is not playing. This is real research." My mother shook her head. "Delia, honey, you are already not well blessed in the looks department. A degree is all you have. Do not throw that away." Her words hit me like a physical blow. I felt tears prickling my eyes, but I forced them back. "This research matters," I said, my voice shaking. "It could lead to treatments for diseases that have no cure right now. I could actually make a difference." My father stopped pacing and looked at me directly. "If you walk away from that university, do not expect a penny from us. Not for living expenses, not for tuition when you decide to come crawling back. Nothing." "Warren," my mother said softly, but she did not contradict him. "I mean it, Delia. You make this choice, you are on your own. You are no longer part of this family." The room spun. I looked at each of them, my father rigid with anger, my mother unable to meet my eyes, Serena looking almost pleased. "You cannot be serious," I whispered. "Dead serious," my father said. "We have given you every advantage, and you want to throw it away for what, some fantasy about being a scientist? Grow up." I spent the rest of the weekend in my old bedroom, barely speaking to anyone. I flew back to Seattle on Sunday night with a heavy heart. For a week, I agonized over the decision. I called Professor Hartley, explained the situation. She listened patiently. "Delia, I cannot tell you what to do," she said gently. "This has to be your choice. But I will say this. Opportunities like this do not come around often. And from what I have seen, you have a gift for this work. Whatever you decide, make sure it is what you want, not what someone else wants for you." Her words stayed with me. I thought about Emily, about all the people suffering from rare diseases with no hope. I thought about what kind of life I wanted to live. Did I want to spend it trying to please people who would never truly see me? Or did I want to follow something that felt meaningful? I made my choice. I accepted the research position. I sent an email to my family explaining my decision. I tried to be respectful to help them understand. I told them I loved them and hoped they could support me. My father's response came 2 hours later. One line. "You have made your choice. Do not contact us again." My mother did not respond at all. Serena sent a text message. "I always knew you would embarrass us." That night, I cried harder than I had since Emily died. But underneath the pain, there was also a strange sense of relief. I had chosen myself. For the first time in my life, I had chosen what I wanted over what they wanted. I moved to San Diego in January with 2 suitcases and a backpack. That was all I had. No family support, no safety net. Just a stipend from the lab, $2,000 a month, and a determination to make this work. I found a small room in a shared apartment with 2 other people, both graduate students. The room was barely big enough for a bed and a desk, but it was mine. I could afford the rent and still have enough left over for food and basic expenses. It would be tight, but I could manage. The lab was everything I had hoped for. It was located in a modern research facility near the university, equipped with state-of-the-art technology. The team consisted of 5 researchers, and I was by far the youngest. Dr. Alan Foster, the lead investigator, was a kind man in his 50s, with graying hair and an infectious enthusiasm for the work. "Welcome, Delia," he said on my first day. "Professor Hartley speaks very highly of you. We are excited to have you here." The work was intense. We were studying gene therapy approaches for a rare lysosomal storage disorder. The days were long, often 12 hours or more, 6 days a week. I learned new techniques, ran countless experiments, analyzed massive amounts of data. But I loved it, every single minute of it. There was something profound about working toward a solution that could help real people. Every small discovery felt significant. Every failed experiment was a lesson. The team treated me with respect. They listened to my ideas, valued my contributions. For the first time in my life, I felt truly seen for my abilities, not judged for my appearance. But the loneliness was crushing. I had no family to call, no one to share my small victories with. Birthdays came and went unnoticed. Holidays were the worst. I tried to avoid social media, but sometimes I could not help myself. I created a secondary account and followed my family from a distance. They had blocked me on their main profiles, but their posts were public enough to find. I saw photos of family vacations. My father, mother, and Serena on a beach somewhere tropical. The caption from my mother read, "My beautiful family, blessed with my 2 favorite people." 2 people, not 3. I had been erased. Serena posted regularly. Photos of her high school achievements, her college acceptance to the University of Washington, the same school I had attended. Her posts were full of life and joy, and sometimes little barbs that I knew were meant for me. One post showed her in a college sweatshirt with the caption, "So glad I do not have to deal with family drama anymore. Just focusing on my education like a normal person." It hurt, every time. But I forced myself to keep going. My 23rd birthday came on a random Tuesday. I was alone in the lab running a late experiment. Dr. Foster had noticed the date on my employee file and brought me a chocolate cupcake from a nearby bakery. "Happy birthday, Delia," he said with a warm smile. I thanked him, trying not to cry. It was the only acknowledgement I got. No calls, no messages, nothing from my family. Thanksgiving that year, I ate a frozen turkey dinner in my tiny room while my roommates were away visiting their families. I scrolled through photos of my family's elaborate feast. My mother had outdone herself with the decorations. Serena looked radiant. Christmas was the same. I worked through the holiday grateful for the distraction. My family's photos showed piles of presents, a decorated tree, everyone smiling. I was not there. I had never been there. It was as if I had never existed. But I kept working. The research became my anchor. Every day in the lab was a day I was building toward something. I might have lost my family, but I had found purpose. 18 months into my work at the lab, something extraordinary happened. I had been analyzing a particular set of gene sequences, looking for patterns that might explain why certain treatments worked for some patients, but not others. It was tedious work comparing thousands of data points looking for anomalies. One night, working late as usual, I noticed something. A mutation pattern that did not match anything in the existing literature. I ran the analysis again, thinking I had made an error, but the results were the same. I spent the entire night verifying the data, cross-referencing with every database I could access. By morning, I was exhausted, but certain. I had found something new. I showed my findings to Dr. Foster first thing when he arrived. He studied my data carefully, his expression growing more serious. "Delia," he said slowly, "do you understand what this means?" "I think so, but I want to be sure before I say anything." He called the entire team together. We spent 3 days running additional tests, verifying every aspect of the discovery. The conclusion was unanimous. I had identified a previously unknown gene mutation pattern that could be a key to understanding treatment resistance in this particular disorder. "This is extraordinary work," Dr. Foster said, his eyes bright with excitement. "This could change our entire approach to treatment. We need to publish this." The next 6 months were a whirlwind. We wrote a comprehensive research paper documenting the discovery and its implications. As the person who made the initial finding, I was listed as the first author. Dr. Foster insisted on it despite my protests. "You did the work, Delia. You deserve the credit." We submitted the paper to Nature Genetics, one of the most prestigious scientific journals in the field. The peer review process was rigorous, but eventually we received the email we had been hoping for. Our paper was accepted for publication. The day it was published online, my phone started ringing with calls from other research institutions. Scientists I had only read about wanted to discuss our findings, explore collaborations. I was invited to present at international conferences. For the first time in my life, I felt truly successful. Not because of how I looked, not because I fit into someone else's expectations, but because of my work, because of my mind, because of what I had contributed to the world. I wondered if my family knew, if they had seen the publication with my name on it. But there was no word from them. The silence continued. Around this time, I received an unexpected email from the University of California, San Diego. Based on my published research and recommendations from Dr. Foster and Professor Hartley, they were offering me a position in their PhD program. Full scholarship plus a stipend of $35,000 per year. I could continue my current research as part of my doctoral thesis. It felt like everything was falling into place. I accepted immediately. Enrolling as a PhD student felt like coming home in a way. I was back in academia, but on my own terms this time. The university also agreed to transfer credits from my time at the University of Washington. Between those credits and the research I had already completed, I was well positioned to finish a bachelor's degree while simultaneously working toward my doctorate. Life was far from perfect. I was still alone in many ways. I still felt the ache of family rejection. But I had built something for myself. I had proven, at least to myself, that I was capable of more than anyone had believed. Then one afternoon, scrolling through social media during a rare break, I saw an announcement. Serena had posted about her upcoming graduation from the University of Washington. She would be completing her degree in communications that June. I stared at the post for a long time. The University of Washington, the school I had left. The school that had been part of the reason my family cut me off. And now Serena would walk across that stage, celebrate with our parents, and receive all the pride and love that I had been denied. The irony was almost too much. But then, as I sat there, an idea began to form. Not revenge exactly, but a kind of reckoning. 2 months before Serena's graduation, I received an email that I had to read 3 times to believe. It was from the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Washington. The subject line read, "Invitation to return for commencement ceremony." I opened it with shaking hands. "Dear Delia, it has come to our attention through Professor Margaret Hartley and our tracking of distinguished alumni that you have made exceptional contributions to the field of genetic research. Your recent publication in Nature Genetics has brought great honor to the University of Washington community. We would like to invite you to return to campus to receive your Bachelor of Science degree with highest honors at our June commencement ceremony. Additionally, we would be honored if you would serve as one of our keynote speakers, addressing our graduates about perseverance and following one's passion in the face of adversity. We understand you left school to pursue research opportunities, and we want to celebrate your success and dedication to science. Your story embodies the spirit of what we hope to instill in our students. Please let us know if you would be willing to accept this invitation. Sincerely, Dean Robert Morrison. I read it again and again. They wanted to give me my degree. They wanted me to speak. At commencement. I checked the date of the ceremony, June 15th. I pulled up Serena's social media again. Her graduation was June 15th. Same day, same ceremony. The university held one large commencement for all undergraduate colleges. Serena would be there. My parents would be there. And they had no idea I would be there too. My first instinct was fear. What if seeing them was too painful? What if they made a scene? What if I could not handle the confrontation? But then I thought about the past 5 years. The loneliness. The hard work. The discoveries I had made. The life I had built despite everything they had said about me, despite being called ugly, despite being told I would amount to nothing without a traditional degree. I had succeeded, on my own terms, in my own way, and I had done it without them. I did not need their approval anymore. But maybe, just maybe, they needed to see what they had thrown away. What they had failed to recognize. I typed out my response. Dear Dean Morrison, I would be honored to accept your invitation. Thank you for this recognition. I look forward to returning to campus. Sincerely, Delia Harper. I hit send before I could second guess myself. The next 2 months passed in a blur of preparation. I worked with the university's communications office on my speech. I wanted it to be meaningful, honest. Not bitter, but truthful. I wanted to speak to anyone who had ever been told they were not enough. I also took time for myself in a way I had not in years. Not to prove anything to anyone, but because I wanted to feel confident. I got a haircut at a nice salon. I bought a well-tailored suit in deep navy blue. I practiced my speech until I could deliver it smoothly. Dr. Foster read through my draft and nodded approvingly. This is powerful, Delia. You should be proud. I am, I said, and I meant it. For the first time, I truly was proud of myself. 1 week before the ceremony, I was scrolling through social media when I saw my mother's post. A photo of her, my father, and Serena shopping for graduation outfits. The caption read, Cannot wait to see my beautiful Serena graduate this Saturday. So proud of her accomplishments. My stomach tightened. They would be there. They would see me. The element of surprise would be complete. I booked a flight to Seattle for Friday. I would stay in a hotel near campus, attend the ceremony Saturday morning, and fly back that evening. Quick and clean. The night before I left San Diego, I stood in front of my mirror looking at my reflection. I was not the insecure girl they had rejected 5 years ago. I had changed. Not physically, though. I suppose I looked older, more composed. But internally, I was different, stronger, more certain of my worth. They will see you, I whispered to my reflection. They will hear your name, and they will know they were wrong. I arrived in Seattle Friday evening. The city felt both familiar and foreign. I had spent 2 years here as a student, but that felt like another lifetime. I checked into a hotel near the university campus and spent the evening reviewing my speech one last time. I barely slept. My mind kept running through scenarios of how the next day would unfold. Saturday morning arrived with clear blue skies. I dressed carefully in my navy suit, applied minimal makeup, and looked at myself one final time. I looked professional, composed, ready. The drive to campus took 15 minutes. I parked and walked toward the main quad where the ceremony would be held. Graduates in caps and gowns were everywhere taking photos with families laughing, celebrating. I felt a pang of something, not quite envy, but a recognition of what I had missed. I made my way to the building where speakers and honored guests were gathering. Dean Morrison greeted me warmly, shaking my hand. "Delia, we are so proud of what you have accomplished," he said. "Thank you for coming back to share your story." I met the other speakers, including the university president and a distinguished professor emeritus. Everyone was kind, welcoming. I was led to a special seating area on the stage reserved for dignitaries and speakers. From my elevated position, I could see the rows and rows of chairs filling up with families. I scanned the crowd, searching. And then I saw them. Third row from the front. My father in a dark gray suit. My mother in a pale yellow dress. And Serena in her graduation gown, the cap slightly askew on her blonde hair. They were laughing about something. My father was adjusting Serena's tassel. My mother was taking photos on her phone. They looked happy, complete. My heart pounded. They had no idea I was there. No idea I was sitting on the stage watching them. Serena looked beautiful as always. She was smiling, waving at friends, completely in her element. This was her day, her triumph. But it was mine too. They just did not know it yet. The ceremony began with traditional processional music. The graduates filed in row after row of caps and gowns. Serena walked with her college, waving enthusiastically at our parents. They waved back, beaming with pride. Once all the graduates were seated, the university president gave opening remarks, welcoming families and friends. Then Dean Morrison stepped to the podium. "Before we begin conferring degrees," he said, his voice clear and strong, "we have a very special recognition." I sat up straighter, my hands gripping the armrests of my chair. "Today, we honor an alumna who exemplifies the spirit of perseverance and scientific excellence." Dean Morrison continued. 5 years ago, she made a difficult choice to pursue groundbreaking research. She left school to work full-time in a genetics lab studying treatments for rare diseases. I saw my mother's head tilt slightly, as if something in the words caught her attention. Her work has been published in one of the most prestigious scientific journals in the world. She is now a PhD candidate, and her research is changing lives. My father was frowning now, listening intently. "Please join me in welcoming back Delia Harper to receive her Bachelor of Science degree with highest honors and to address our graduates." The applause started. I stood up, my legs shaky but holding. I looked down at my family. My mother's hand had flown to her mouth. My father's eyes were wide with shock. And Serena, her face had gone completely pale, her smile frozen. I walked to the podium, each step feeling surreal. Dean Morrison handed me a diploma case, shook my hand warmly, and stepped aside. I stood at the microphone, looking out at thousands of faces. And in the third row, 3 faces I knew better than any others, staring back at me in complete disbelief. I gripped the edges of the podium, took a breath, and began. "Thank you, Dean Morrison. And thank you to everyone here today." My voice came out steadier than I expected. I could see my mother's eyes glistening with tears. My father sat rigid, unmoving. Serena was staring down at her hands. 5 years ago, I made a decision that changed my life. I chose to leave this university to pursue a research opportunity in gene therapy. It was not an easy choice. In fact, it was one of the hardest things I have ever done. I paused, gathering my thoughts. The audience was quiet, attentive. My family did not support that decision. They did not understand why I would walk away from a traditional path. And honestly, I could not blame them. From the outside, it looked like I was throwing everything away, dropping out, giving up. I saw my mother wipe her eyes. They cut me off completely, financially, emotionally, in every way. I was told I was no longer part of the family, and for a long time, that rejection was the most painful thing I had ever experienced. My voice wavered slightly, but I pushed through. I moved to San Diego with 2 suitcases and a stipend that barely covered rent. I worked 12-hour days in a lab running experiments, analyzing data, learning everything I could. There were nights I cried myself to sleep wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. I looked directly at the graduates now, not at my family. I spent birthdays alone, holidays alone. I watched from a distance as my family celebrated without me, posted photos of their perfect life, a life that no longer included me. The quad was silent except for my voice. But I kept working, because the research mattered, because I believed in what I was doing, and because I had to prove to myself, not to anyone else, but to myself, that I was capable of more than I had been told. I allowed myself a small smile. 18 months ago, I discovered a gene mutation pattern that had never been documented before. That discovery led to a publication in Nature Genetics. It led to collaboration with researchers around the world. And it led to me being invited into a PhD program where I can continue this work. The crowd erupted in applause. I waited for it to settle. I tell you this not to boast, but to share something I learned the hard way. Passion is not always convenient. It does not always fit into the boxes others create for us. It does not always make sense to the people we love. I took another breath. But when you follow it with integrity and dedication, when you trust yourself even when others do not, it leads you somewhere beautiful, somewhere authentic, somewhere that is truly yours. I looked out at the sea of graduates. To the graduates here today, I want to say this. Do not let anyone tell you that you are not enough. Not your family, not your friends, not society's standards of success, or beauty, or worth. You are enough. Your dreams are valid. Your path is yours alone to walk. My voice grew stronger. There will be people who do not understand your choices. There will be people who judge you, who doubt you, who try to convince you to play it safe. But you know yourself better than anyone else does. Trust that knowledge. Honor it. Follow it. I glanced down at my family one more time. My mother was openly crying now. My father's face was unreadable. Serena was still looking down. 5 years ago, my family called me an ugly college dropout. They were ashamed of me, and I believed them for a while. I believed I had failed. I shook my head. But I did not fail. I flew. I just flew in a direction they could not see. And that is okay. Not everyone will understand your journey. Not everyone needs to. I smiled, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. The greatest gift you can give yourself is the freedom to become who you truly are, not who others expect you to be. That freedom is worth any price. I concluded simply. Congratulations, Class of 2024. May you all find the courage to follow your own path, wherever it leads. The applause was thunderous. People stood. I stepped back from the podium, my heart racing, my eyes stinging with unshed tears. Dean Morrison shook my hand again, whispering, "That was incredible." I returned to my seat as the ceremony continued. Degrees were conferred by college. When they reached the College of Communications, I watched as Serena stood with her classmates, walked across the stage, and received her diploma. My parents clapped, but the earlier joy seemed muted. They kept glancing up at the stage at me. After all the degrees were awarded, after the final speeches and the traditional tossing of caps, the ceremony ended. Graduates poured out of their seats to find families. I stood on the stage surrounded by well-wishers, professors, and university staff who wanted to congratulate me. And then I saw them approaching. My mother moving through the crowd. My father and Serena following behind. My mother reached me first. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out at first. Finally, she managed, "Delia." I stood still waiting. "I did not know," she said, her voice breaking. I did not know about any of this. The publication, the research, the PhD. I am so sorry. My father stepped forward. He looked older than I remembered, more tired. You have done well, he said stiffly. Better than we ever imagined. Serena stood slightly behind them, not meeting my eyes. I looked at the three of them, these people who had shaped so much of my life, who had caused so much pain, and I felt a strange calm. Thank you, I said simply. But I did not do this for you. My mother flinched as if I had slapped her. I did it for myself, I continued, and for the people my research can help. Can we talk? My mother asked, reaching out tentatively. Maybe have dinner. I want to understand. I want to know everything that happened. I considered this. Part of me wanted to say no, to walk away as completely as they had walked away from me. But another part, a quieter part, recognized that they were trying. Maybe, I said carefully, but not today. I need time, a lot of time. My father nodded. We understand. We will wait. And when we do talk, I said, my voice firm, it will be on my terms. No more judgments. No more comparisons. If you want to be part of my life, you accept all of me, my choices, my career, my path, or we do not do this at all. Yes, my mother said quickly. Yes, of course. Whatever you need. I did not believe her, not entirely. Trust would take years to rebuild if it could be rebuilt at all. But I recognized this moment for what it was. A beginning, maybe, or an ending. Time would tell. I have to go, I said. I have a flight back to San Diego this evening. Of course, my father said. I walked away from them through the crowd toward the parking lot. I did not look back. The months following that graduation ceremony were complicated. My mother sent emails, tentative at first, then more frequent. She asked about my research. She sent articles she thought I might find interesting. She was trying. My father was more reserved. His emails were brief, formal, but they came. He asked about my PhD program, about my plans for the future. Small steps. Serena did not contact me at all for the first 2 months. Then one evening, I received a text message. I am sorry. That was all it said. I stared at it for a long time before responding. Thank you. I did not know if we would ever be close. The damage was deep. But maybe in time, we could find some kind of peace. I threw myself back into my research with renewed energy. The recognition from the university had opened new doors. I was invited to collaborate on projects with labs across the country. My advisor at UCSD encouraged me to apply for prestigious fellowships, and I was awarded 2 of them. My PhD research expanded on my initial discovery. I spent long hours in the lab, but now those hours felt different. I was not running from loneliness anymore. I was running towards something. Purpose. Meaning. Impact. I made friends within my program. Other PhD students who understood the unique pressures of research, who celebrated small victories and commiserated over failed experiments. I found community. One of my roommates, Alicia, became a close friend. She was studying marine biology, and we would spend evenings cooking dinner together, talking about our work, our lives, our dreams. She knew my story, knew about my family, and she never judged. You know what I admire most about you, she said one night as we were washing dishes. You did not let their rejection define you. You built something beautiful anyway. I smiled. It did not always feel beautiful. Some days it felt like survival. Maybe, she said, but you survived, and you are thriving. That is no small thing. Slowly, carefully, I began to let go of the anger. Not because my family deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. Carrying that hurt was exhausting. It was a weight that served no purpose. I learned to set boundaries. When my mother pushed too hard to meet up, I said no until I was ready. When my father made a comment that felt like the old judgments creeping back in, I called it out immediately. I was done shrinking myself to make others comfortable. 6 months after the graduation, I finally agreed to have dinner with my parents. Just the two of them. Serena was not ready, and honestly, neither was I. We met at a restaurant in Portland Neutral Territory. It was awkward at first. My mother cried through the appetizers. My father was stilted, unsure how to talk to me. But by the end of the evening, we had managed a real conversation. Not about the past, not yet, but about the present. My research, their lives, small, safe topics that slowly built a fragile bridge. "I read your paper," my father said as we were finishing dessert. I did not understand all of it, but I read it. I was surprised. "You did?" "I wanted to understand what you had been working on. It is impressive, Delia, truly." It was not a full apology. It was not enough to erase 5 years of pain. But it was something. My mother reached across the table and took my hand. "I was wrong. About so many things. I let your father's obsession with appearances cloud my judgment. I should have seen you for who you were. I am so sorry." I did not pull my hand away, but I did not return the squeeze either. "I appreciate you saying that," I said, "but you need to understand something. That rejection changed me. I cannot just forget it happened." "We do not expect you to," my father said quietly. "We just hope that in time, you might let us try to do better." I nodded. "We will see." That was the best I could offer, and for now, it seemed to be enough. A year later, I successfully defended my dissertation proposal. 2 years after that, I published 3 more papers. My research was gaining traction, contributing to clinical trials for treatments that could help thousands of people with rare genetic disorders. I thought about Emily often, the friend I had lost to a disease that had no cure. I liked to think she would be proud of what I was doing, that her life, as short as it was, had inspired something meaningful. My relationship with my family improved incrementally. It was not perfect. There were still moments of tension, times when old patterns tried to resurface, but I held my ground. I refused to be diminished. Serena and I eventually had a long, difficult conversation. She admitted that she had been jealous of me in ways she did not understand as a teenager. Jealous of my intelligence, my focus, my ability to care about things beyond appearances. She had leaned into being the pretty one because it was the only currency our parents seemed to value. "I wish I had stood up for you," she said. "I was a coward." "We were both products of that house," I replied. "You were a kid too." It was not forgiveness, not completely. But it was understanding, and that was a start. Through all of this, I discovered something profound. My worth was never determined by my family's perception of me. It was not determined by whether I was pretty enough, conventional enough, obedient enough. My worth was intrinsic. It existed because I existed, because I had a mind that thought, a heart that felt, and hands that worked to make the world a little better. They had called me ugly. They had called me a dropout. They had tried to erase me from their lives as if I had never mattered. But I found something they could never give me and could never take away: my own voice, my own worth, my own path, and that was more than enough. So, if you have ever been told you are not good enough, smart enough, pretty enough, or worthy enough, I want you to know something. Those words say everything about the person speaking them, and nothing about you. Your value does not decrease based on someone's inability to see it. Follow your passion even when it is inconvenient. Trust yourself even when others doubt. Build the life that makes sense to you, not the life that looks good to everyone else. And know that on the other side of that courage, there is a version of you that is free. Have you ever had to choose between following your dreams and keeping your family's approval? I would love to hear your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more stories about overcoming adversity and finding your own path. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they are enough exactly as they are. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that sometimes the best thing you can do is believe in yourself, even when no one else does. Wishing you all the courage to walk your own path, wherever it may lead.